오래간만에 또 스트리밍을 해보고 있어요. 뭐가 되는 건지 모르겠네. 오케이, 일단 된다고 생각하고 I tried to make live streaming through the YouTube for very long time. I want to make practice time for my reading skill to the Burlington English, which is the website from my classroom for ESL. Okay, first of all, I sent some information for this summer vacation. It's just expectation from me. My children finished their final test for second semester, and it's coming the summer vacation from May last week, and they are so free because of they done or about assignment for the each subject. So they want to play game, but I asked them and list the daytime for their school life. They keep the studying very regular, and then they can play the game from 4 o'clock p.m. So my younger daughter is older and very bored, but I ignored at all. Okay, and today morning I already finished my class early, so I have free time for practice to reading and enjoying watching the YouTube, but I couldn't finish my assignment to reading and Dr. Jekyll and Hyde. So before I just playing, watching TV and or read some book, I have to finish it this. Okay, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Ooh. I finished it until chapter here, maybe page 19. Okay, I finished here from 20. Chapter 7, A Visit from Pool. After Raynon said that Arson often thought of his friend Henry Jekyll, but rarely went to visit him. When he did go, Jekyll didn't let him enter. The doctor stayed in his room above the laboratory. Laboratory. Okay, laboratory. The laboratory most of the time. Paul told Mr. Hudson sometimes he even sleeps there. He doesn't do anything. He just sits quietly in his chair. Something is worrying him, I'm sure. One Sunday on their weekly work, Arson and Enfield visit the Derry old door again, where the story is pitched, said Mr. Enfield. We will never see Mr. Hyde again. I hope you are right, said Mr. Urson. Did I tell you what I saw him once? I agree with you. Hyde looks really evil. Let's go into the courtyard. I'm worried about Jekyll. Perhaps talking to a friend, even a friend who is standing outside, will help him a little. One of the windows was open, and Dr. Jekyll sat next to it, looking very sad. Jekyll called Miss Urson. I hope you are feeling better. No, I am. I'm very ill, answered Dr. Jekyll, but it will not last long. You stay inside too much, said Mr. Urson. This is my friend, Mr. Enfield. Come with us for a short walk. You are very kind, answered Dr. Jekyll, but it is impossible. I'm very happy to see you, but I can't invite you in because the place is very dirty. Then the best thing to do is to stay here and talk to you, said Miss Urson. That's a good idea, said Dr. Jekyll with a smile. But suddenly an expression of terror appeared on his face, and he closed the window quickly. Mr. Ortiz and Mr. Enfield turned and left the courtyard in silence. They too were terrified. One evening after dinner, Mr. Artisan was sitting in a chair in front of uh, the fire when Paul suddenly arrived. Paul, why are you here? Mr. Artisan asked, surprised. You seem nervous. Is anything wrong? Is the doctor ill? Yes, sir. For answer, something is very wrong. Sit down. Alden said, here's a glass of water for you. Now tell me what has happened. You know the doctor's habit, sir, Paul began, and how he passes a lot of time locked in his room above the laboratory. Well, he's there now, and I don't like it. I pretend, sir. What are you frightened of? Arjun asked. Poor didn't answer. He sat there looking at a corner of the room. He didn't look at Arjun and he didn't drink the water. Poor, said Mr. Arjun. Please try to explain. I think that there has been a crime. Poor finally said. A crime? Shouted the Alderson, not frightened too. What do you mean? I can't tell you, sir, asked, answered Paul, but please come with me and you will see what I mean. Alderson stood up and took his hat and coat. It was a cold, windy night, and not many people were outside there as Paul and Alison walked quickly through the street. When they arrived at Dr. Jackie's front door, Paul stopped. His face was white and was trembling. He knocked quietly on the door, and a voice from inside said, is that you fool? Yes, It's all right, said Paul. Open the door. They went into the house, and Artisan was surprised to see all the servants in the hall. Why are you all here? He asked the irritated. Irritated. This is very irregular. Your master would be very angry if he knew. They are threatened, said Paul. Fur took a candle and went with Mr. Artisan to Dr. Jekyll's laboratory on the other side of the courtyard. Be very quiet, Paul said. Dr. Jekyll must not know that you are here at the laboratory. The two men got to the bottom of the stair. Stay here and listen, said Paul. He went upstairs and knocked nervously on the door. Mr. Anderson wants to see you, sir, he shouted. A voice from inside answered. Tell him that I can't see anyone. Thank you, sir, said Paul. There was crimp in his voice. Then he and Arthur returned to the house. Was that my master's voice? Paul asked. Trimp, trimp, trimp. 이게 뭘까요? 트림프. 상한이라는 뜻인가요? 트림프. 트림프 스펠링이 어떻게 되지? S-R-I-U 트림 U가 하나 더 들어가네. Triumph, triumph, triumph. 발음이 다르네요. Triumph. 이번 주 파일이 구글 닥스에 매주 공부하는 걸 노트하고 있는데 이게 생각보다 좀 유용해요. 그래서 물론 완전히 다 외우지는 못하지만 그래도 이렇게 노트를 하면은 다음번에 어떤 단어 봤을 때 이거 내가 몇 번쯤 찾은 단어다 싶을 때는 좀 즉각적으로 이해할 수 있는 것 같아요. 그건 이제 뭐죠? 내가 이거 완전 암기했다고 생각 안 했는데도 가끔은 트라이어 이렇게 외모 남기고 발음을 몇 번 좀 해보고 그러는 사이에 좀 기억을 해서 스피치 할 때 한 번씩 훅하니 튀어나오는 경우가 있어요. 그럴 때 되게 좀 뿌듯하기도 하고 트라이엄프. 그리고 잊어먹었다가도 나중에 또 이렇게 지금처럼 이렇게 찾아보면 나 이거 아는다는데 라는 생각도 들고 그래요. 목소리가 이상했나 봅니다. 되게 신나하는 목소리. There was triumph in his voice. 성공한 듯한 목소리가 들렸어. Parsons' face was very pale. No, the voice was very different, he said. I agree, said Paul. I began to work here 20 years ago. I know my master's voice very well, and that was not his voice. 8 days ago, he heard a terrible scream in his room. I think that my master is dead and that someone else is now in his room. Who is it? Why is he staying here? What's happening? Chapter 8. A strange story. Arthur was silent for a few moments. Are you saying that someone murdered Jekyll and is now staying in his room? That does seem reasonable. reasonable. Mr. Artisan, there's more to tell you. Continue. The door to the room is always closed. I put my master's mirror on the stair and he takes them when nobody is looking. The person in that room wants a certain chemical very much. He should he shopped for it days and nights every day, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. He write an order for it on a piece of paper and threw it downstairs for me. Every time I bring him to chemical, he's angry. This chemical is not pure. He write and send me to buy it from different chemist's shop. Do you have any of these paper? Asked Miss Artson. Paul took a piece of paper from his pocket and gave it to Mr. Artson. Artson read it carefully. You recently sent a chemical to Dr. Jackie, but it isn't pure, and Dr. Jackie can't use it. A few months ago, Dr. Jackie bought quiet, quite a lot of this chemical from you. Please try to find some of the same quality and send it to him immediately. The cost is not important. Dr. Jekyll needed it urgently, and he implores, implores, implore, implore you to find it. implore, 좀 간절히 원할 때. He implores. 음, 아까 찾았었어요. I went to the laboratory one day, and a man was there, big and tall. When he saw me, he shouted strangely, strangely and ran upstairs to Dr. Jekyll's room. I only saw him for a minute, but I was frightened. He had a mask on his face. Why? And why did he run from me? It is very strange, Paul, said Addison, but I think I understand the problem now. Your mother has a strange illness. This illness changes his voice and also gives his deformed appearance. That's why he's wearing the mask and why he doesn't want visitor. That's also why he wants the chemical so much to have him become more normal again. First face very pale, sir, he said. That person was not my master. My master is tall and slim. The man in the laboratory was very short. The thing in the mask was not my master. I'm sure that someone murdered him. Who? This note is in your master's handwriting, and that shows that he is alive, said Erskine. However, your doubt means that I must check. I must break open the door of his room. That's a good idea, exclaimed Paul. We will do it together. You must tell me everything before we go. Continued Miss Urson, did you recognize the masked man? I moved very quickly. He moved very quickly, sir. I said, poor, but I'm sure it was Mr. Hyde. Nobody can enter the laboratory. Only Mr. Hyde has a key to the laboratory door at the back of the building. He's, he had it at the time of the Car, uh, Carol, Carol, Carol mother. One more thing, and one more thing, there's something strange about Mr. Hyde. People pick a poor peer when they see him. Yes, I saw Hyde once. I know what you mean, said Miss Ursula when the masked man jumped up. Okay. 아, 뭐지?